All right, we'll go ahead and start. Um, Welcome, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Marion Rodriguez Soto, and welcome to our urban update, our February 1. Today, we'll be talking about we'll be talking about the management calculators. That will be our technical topic, and then we'll jump to regional updates and statewide updates, and then we'll give a chance for everyone to share if they have events going on. So you'll have an opportunity to share those in the call as well. And like I said, today we'll be talking about the nutrient management calculators. So here in the call, we have Kevin Allison, who is the urban soil health specialist with Marion County Soil and Water Conservation District. And he'll be sharing about the calculator that he's been working on for the past few years. So Kevin, go ahead. You have the floor to share about the calculator.
Cool. Thank you, Marion. Welcome, everybody. Good morning. My name is Kevin Allison. I'm with the Marion County Soil and Water Conservation District in Indianapolis. My position is supported by the USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service in my district. So today we're going to be talking about nutrient management. And I was looking kind of at my notes, and I saw we talked about this about a year ago. So I've been at it trying to develop this tool even further, so it looks a little bit different now, and I think it's more functional, or has higher functional word. It's better now. So I'm hoping it will help growers. I'm hoping it will help planners and folks that are dealing with nutrient management in small scale agriculture. Earlier this year, Purdue Extension came out with a survey, and they were looking at the top obstacles, top challenges in urban agriculture and small scale ag. And of course, one of the top ones was nutrient management. So I think pest management, soil health were right up there with it. But yeah, folks just want to manage their nutrients better. It's better for water quality. It's better for their budget if they can get the nutrients right. And it should be better for the production, crop production. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to take you on a little tour of the tool, but first I kind of want to show you where some of this background came from. So it's going to take a little bit to load up some of these files, maybe. Patient. So a lot of what you'll see today is based on data from the Michigan State publication called Recommendations for Vegetable Crops in Michigan. And you're probably like, but we're in Indiana. Well, it's close, right? It's our neighbor, so Purdue feels like this is good data for us. We haven't done an enormous amount of trials in Indiana for vegetable crops. That might come over time. If it does, we'll continue to update the tool to include that. So just I'm gonna just slide through this document just a little bit, but what I wanted to show you was this graph right here. Give it a second to make sure it's loaded. So what I hope you're seeing is a graph that basically says relative soil test value, and as it increases, the yield also increases as well. But there comes a point where there's a critical value, and that basically means that once you hit that point on your soil test results, like your phosphorus is that high or your potassium is that high, adding any more fertilizer is not going to give a measurable or significant yield response. And I think I think that's I think we know that as conservationists. Hopefully growers know that too, or are learning it. But it basically says that once your phosphorus is so high, you don't need to add anymore, or you just need to add less. And that's kind of what this tool helps you do, is put that into numbers for the crops. So I'm going to slide down a little bit more. This is a good read. I'm not going to stop at all these graphs because I know it takes time to load up each one, but there's pH targets for each vegetable. There's the amount of pounds that are removed from each vegetable based on harvest. I am going to stop at this graph here. Give it a few seconds. But what you'll see is the nitrogen recommendations for vegetable crops. So this document has mineral soil targets, and I for now forget about the organic soils. I know yeah, when we're thinking like small scale, we think organic, but really in this guide, organic soil means like Michigan muck soils. So it's not really relevant to our soils. So we're going to go with the mineral soils. So you can see these targets, right? 140 pounds of nitrogen, 60 pounds for dill, et cetera, et cetera. So I just wanted to show you that as a kind of where this data is coming from. And then here's another graph. So I think this graph kind of explains that level and maintenance level concept. So the soil test level is on the bottom axis, and as it goes to the right, as your soil test goes higher and higher, like your phosphorus goes higher and higher, you go from a buildup range where it's low, so too low almost, like the crop, the soil needs more phosphorus in it, or more available phosphorus to support a crop. Once you hit a certain level, you're in the maintenance range. So maintenance is basically you're providing what you're taking from the crop. So if we were to harvest beets, and per this acre of beets, we're removing so many pounds of phosphorus. A maintenance range is just basically replenishing that, just to keep the soil level the same. And then once you hit that maintenance limit, then you can start going to drawdown. So drawdown is basically your phosphorus or potassium is high enough that the soil has those nutrients, so there's not as much need to fertilize. And at some point in time, or at a certain level, then it becomes like excessive. And that's where you can just stop. Like, yeah, you wouldn't have to put any more phosphorus or potassium on. So there's a lot of math involved. You can see on the right, that's kind of powers these spreadsheets. I'm not going to go through all those, but you can read this document and kind of get a sense of how that math works if you're interested. So yeah, there's more tables in this manual. Tell you what, when I first saw this manual, I read it and I closed it and I said, wow, that was complicated. It was confusing. I never it was overwhelming. So yeah, like hopefully like this calculator kind of brings that into something like more understandable and usable. But yeah, there's amazing information in this document if you want to dig in. So I want to show you one more little thing here. There's also stuff about like micronutrients. The tool is not set up to handle micronutrients yet, in terms of like, if you're low in boron, or if you're low in copper, like how much should you put on? But if you're interested, again, this document has both. And then one more thing to show you on this document, and then we can get out of here. But yeah, so there's some vegetable-specific information here as well. So you can see that they've got like a paragraph or like a little article or a little portion about celery and celeriac. There's also one on carrots. So you can see that they start getting more specific about the recommendations. So whereas that first table said apply 100 pounds, this is more like apply 40 pounds of N up front, for example, like your broadcasting like starter. And then it says, like later on 2 weeks, like apply more. So a lot of the farmers that I work with, growers that I work with, don't necessarily do that. They will just do a lot of the fertilization up front. But as we know in big ag, and yeah, it can be beneficial to split those applications up, just to more like spoon feed that crop and just make sure that nitrogen's used by the crop and not be a concern for water quality or losing that nitrogen to leaching, etc. Okay, so I'm gonna stop sharing for a second. Bear with me. Okay. Hopefully you can see a Internet Explorer browser document and the document on here. This is actually from the Midwest Vegetable Guide. So this is a guide that I bookmark it. I go to it all the time. It's like Purdue and the extensions and universities around our region. But they've got like good information about like nutrient management and all sorts of things. But each crop also has a section on fertility. So you can see where this fertilizing comes in. This is actually for like onion crops or related crops like garlic. So you can see that they've like the Midwest Vegetable Guide also has some awesome information about fertilizing. So before planting, apply 25 pounds of nitrogen, okay, and then up to 150 pounds of phosphorus and up to 100 pounds of K2O per acre based on your soil test results. Okay, so that's important. So basically, Midwest Vegetable Guide is saying get a soil test, and I would agree with them. It kind of gives you a basis for like knowing what your soil has, if you're high or you're low, in phosphorus or potassium and other nutrients. So this is also like a good guide to come back to, and I'll show you kind of what that looks if you bookmark that webpage, like mwvegguide or .org /guide, and you can kind of scroll down and got all sorts of things about transplants and fungicide even and insect management. And then towards the bottom, it's got all the vegetable crops or a lot of vegetable crops. And that's you can go in and see their fertility recommendations. Okay, stop sharing now. Also, any questions along the way, just drop them in the chat or speak up. Okay, so there's a way of doing this without like getting into this big tool, right? You can take a soil test and you can send it to a laboratory and they can give you soil test recommendations. So however, a lot of our soil labs don't seem to do like organic recommendations per se, like organic products. They do, but like maybe it might be difficult if you are a market farmer or even a gardener with like 40 different crops. Sometimes labs won't be able to like do a report for like all those crops. So for beets, do this. For carrots, do this. It would get kind of complicated for the soil lab too. There are some in our region that will do recommendations, but I've also so that's great. I highly recommend doing that. But what I found is that sometimes they'll give a recommendation for like a product, for example, or like something like K-Mag that gives potassium and magnesium. But what if you didn't have that in your garage or your tool shed? So this kind of like this tool lets you kind of pivot and choose other options to supply those nutrients. So I'm just gonna go ahead and walk through this tool for y'all. It is an Excel file. It hopefully will be I wish it was available now. That is okay. It's been a long process to get this far, and I understand that it might take just a little bit longer, but I don't expect it to be too much longer. So hopefully this will be shareable soon. But it is it needs a good like I'm glad it's being reviewed well. Like I've had Purdue university professors look at it. I've had growers look at it, and I've had like A&L Great Lakes labs look at it. And they were all super excited about the potential for using this for nutrient management. So yeah, I've got a lot of growers like emailing me and texting me and saying, hey, when's that file coming? So hopefully soon. But we're gonna go through it because I think that while some farmers might pick this up and be like familiar with the lingo and just the concepts, I think a lot of like gardeners or beginning farmers might not. And I think that's where folks like Purdue Extension and Urban Soil Health and your SWCDs and maybe even your NRCS can kind of help facilitate that a little bit. So my goal over the next year or two is to just continue to train everybody, right, to be able to use this tool. So if we get questions about it or questions about nutrient management, this is something in our toolbox that we can help growers with.
Kevin,
Yep.
I have a question for you. I was wondering what are growers now using to make this like nutrient management decisions?
Yep.
Like what tools are they using?
Yep. That's when we had our grower focus group to look at this tool. We had like a couple of Zoom sessions where we had like 10 growers and just got some input. And one of the questions we asked was what do you do now? And it ranged from I guess I guess. I sprinkle. I just like, yeah, it really was just guesstimate. And I get it because it's hard to really find like, yeah, it's like what you're looking for. Other people were just like, I found what somebody did on a YouTube video, or I do it. I do a soil test. So one of my farmers here in Indianapolis, they bill their carrots as their cash crop. So they will get a soil test on that bed, and then they'll get results back. And they'll ask for recommendations for carrots. So that like they feel comfortable, they've got good results. So yeah, that's one way of doing it for sure. But what about the next year? Like if you were changing that to beets, or if you were changing that to lettuce, that bed, like you might need to send another soil test, or and that would start getting costly. So this kind of like helps you use that soil test and kind of maximize its potential. But yeah, it's a great question. So this Excel tool has got several tabs. The first one is soil test, so you can actually enter your data from your soil test report. You don't have to do that to use this tool, but it really makes it more powerful, right? You can also use this pH tab to look at lime and sulfur recommendations. So adjusting the pH, usually like that Michigan guide, I think it said that like target pH is like 6.5-ish, depending on the crop. And so this will help you target and kind of, yeah, use lime or sulfur, get sulfur or lime recommendations to increase or decrease pH. Then there's an amendments tab where you can select products is the wrong word, because they're not like product like brands, like I don't think we were able to do that, but like yeah, just like in general, like feather meal is a 1200 or a 1300, so it's 13% nitrogen, 0% phosphorus, and 0% potassium. And then there's all sorts of other products with all different analysis, so this lets you put amendments into your palette, I guess, that you can then use later for your nutrient calculator. And you'll be able to see what that looks like. Then there's the nutrient calculator, which actually does creates nutrients and product plans for individual vegetables based on those nutrient recommendations and your area. So another thing that some soil tests don't do is, or soil test recs don't do, is they what if you have 70 square feet of garden? This helps you kind of pull that math down from acres, like pounds per acre, to how many ounces of product are you actually going to put on this amount of square feet. There's a crop data tab, which has like the background data for all these crops, and those came from Michigan State data. I'll show you that as well. And then there's a compost calculator, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's going to be handy, maybe even for I think all this might be handy for like nutrient management plans in the future. My hope is that even like if we're doing like a NRCS 590 nutrient management plan in the future, maybe this can just help us like think through that and get make sure our phosphorus isn't too high and all the things that we're supposed to be doing. So, but the compost calculator to like convert between like yards and pounds and inches and all the things. So I'll show you that as well. Put a disclaimer on, basically, yeah, like use this tool at your own discretion, and contact us if you need help. So with that, I'm going to go through each tab. Okay, so, and I know like, yeah, I'm not sure if like looking at an Excel sheet for an hour is going to be fun for y'all, but I hope I hope it is, or at least informational. So here's a soil test record. So this basically allows you to put in your soil test results. You don't have to mess with this too much. Like you just get your results in, and then I think you can move on. So what I like to do is like I start like up at 2019. Like this is one of my beds, A1, 2, and 3. Okay, this is my soil test from 2019 for those beds A1, 2, and 3. This is my soil test results on the second line for 2019, my beds C1 and 2. And then 2 years later, I took another soil test, right? And I've got 2021 data, and I've got 2021 data for my next bed. So I'm going to keep on going and going and going, and I'm just going to work my way down until, I don't know, until I give up gardening, which probably won't happen. So you put your soil test results in. there are some asterisks here. So like if you want like the nutrient recommendations to be based off your soil test, you're going to want your cation exchange capacity, your phosphorus, and your potassium levels. And then there's also some critical things like enter data in units of parts per million and Malic 3. So I think one place where folks get confused, growers, me, everybody, is these units, right? There's parts per million, there's pounds per acre, there's Morgan extract for like, and there's Malic 3, there's I can't even pronounce half of them, but like there's tons of different, well, there's several different ways that laboratories extract soil test data, or like extract like phosphorus and test phosphorus. And they can be different. They can be like very different. And if you come over here to the right, there is like a conversion table for a couple of them. I just recently found another conversion table, which might be helpful. I did talk to A&L Great Lakes about these conversions, and it references Ohio State's data. And A&L was like, that's probably the best we've got right now, but it's not perfect, you know? So like it's just hard to correlate these things. You need a lot of data to really correlate, okay, what is the conversion between Bray phosphorus to Malic 3? So I guess my recommendations would be if you can get your data in Malic 3, which you can ask your soil lab. Yeah, just don't be afraid to call and ask the soil lab. But if you can get it in Malic 3, which I think is becoming a little bit more common in our region, then just go ahead and do that. And then you can just know that your data is there. Okay. All right, I'm gonna move on to pH. Okay. So you've got your data in, and you can move on to pH. And so there's some best practices here, and these come straight from extension guidelines. These pH tables are based on Purdue Extension pH tables, and then I think sulfur is based on pH, and I think sulfur is based on Purdue, Michigan, lime and raising pH is based on Michigan State. So I just encourage you to like read through all this. I'm not sure how much to dwell on it now, but like there's just hopefully some helpful hints. Like like risk for lead, and like you don't want to like put on too much sulfur on like a bed that's in a contaminated soil, because that acidic soil might let like contamination be more like bioavailable or like available. So there's definitely some like things there that we need to think about in the urban environment, but also just like general agronomic, general agronomy. So I'm going to go down a little bit. There's no calculations here, but this is like soil test records. This is basically you just click and choose your soil test. So, after 10 years, you might have 20 soil tests in your soil test data bank. But this kind of lets you bring up a few of them to look at, and it basically brings up only the data that has to do with pH. So you've got your pH, your buffer pH, cation exchange capacity, and then your saturations of the different nutrients. So I don't think I'm gonna try to give an agronomy course right now, like because like I'm still learning to. But in general, like there's these guidelines on how to like between what percent you would try to target your percent cation saturation targets. So if you saw magnesium above 20, it might not be the end of the world, but if it starts to be above like 30 or maybe 25, then you might you might have like too much saturation of magnesium in your soil, and that can actually lead to like compaction and like less water infiltration. So there are some soil health things involved. Like soil health is definitely biology. Like I think of biology when I think of soil health, but it's also chemistry, and it's also physical. So this is kind of the chemical part of that. So this just gives you an idea of, okay, my pH is okay, it's 7. My magnesium's in range, like everything's okay. But if it were different than that, then I might need to start thinking about adjusting. So if you do need to adjust, I'm going to come down here. If you need to decrease your soil pH, so you've seen that table, and it says like, I think at the top of this Excel sheet, it said what the targets are in general for vegetables. But let's say your soil pH is 7.5. So you can click your soil pH, and this is if it's high, right? And you're wanting to decrease it. And then you can pick your target pH. So 6.5, 6, 5.5 if you're growing like blueberries, for example. So let's say 6.5 is a good range. It's going to automatically kick out how many tons per acre you need, how many pounds per 1,000 square feet you need, and you can choose your soil type. So clay, it changes. Sandy, it changes the numbers. Silt loam, it changes the numbers. So it does take into account Purdue's data on what the soil type has how the soil type has an effect on sulfur. And then you can put in your area to apply. So if I've got a 2,000 square foot garden, it's 40 pounds of elemental sulfur per that 2,000 square feet, which is 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And then there's also best practices, like many agronomists recommend limiting sulfur applications to 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So take that into account, right? Like, so I wouldn't just all of a sudden put on the 40 pounds like in one go. I would look at these best practices and say, okay, I need to split that. So I'm going to do 10 this year, 10 next year, 10 the following year. And I'm going to make notes of that to make sure that I remember that how much I put on each year. I am on Friday going up to Purdue University to meet with Ankita, who's in their like technology department, and I'm hoping that they can help me like figure out how to do reports from this. So like currently, like you kind of have to take notes with this thing, right? Like I'll show you how to do that in a little bit, but yeah, it'd be nice if you could just like it was just all automatic. You just click a button and it like spits out a report for your whole nutrient plan for the entire year. This is better than what we had, but I'd like to keep pushing this to make it better and better. So I'm going to go down a little bit. This is just the table that it's based on. So you can see the pH is 8 and you want to go to 5.5, it tells you how many pounds per sulfur per 1,000 square feet. So that's just what these calculations were based on. I'm going to go down a little bit and give it a second for this to load. Okay, so if you're wanting to raise your pH, if you got a low pH, you can select your buffer pH. So buffer pH is like how the labs measure, like they can take pH and then they can also take buffer pH. And buffer pH is just a better indication of like how much limestone you would need to raise the pH of your soil. So you can pick your pH. So let's say it was 6.2 and your target is 6.5 or 6.8. You can pick your target pH. So what do you want to raise your pH to? And it's the same thing, right? It tells you tons per acre, pounds per 1,000 square feet. The depth of incorporation matters. So basically, if you're tilling 9 inches, you would pick 9 inches. The guidance from Michigan State was that if you were in a no-till situation or a minimal till situation, with I think a lot of our gardeners are moving to, then you would pick the lowest amount. You would pick 3 as the depth of incorporation for inches. And then you pick the area to apply. Let's say it's 2,000 square feet. And the same thing, it's 240 pounds of limestone per that area at 121 pounds per 1,000 square feet. And don't think I'm going to read all of this, but it basically, the best practices talk about limits. Agronomists recommend that, you would limit each application to 180 pounds per 1,000 square feet. The maximum per season, agronomists recommend that it's like 270 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So again, like I think there is a lot of agronomy here. Like we don't like I'm not even sure. Like yeah, we don't have to be agronomists. But hopefully this just helps guide. I think. But like I think one point would be to like if you don't how do I say this? Yeah, I guess don't be afraid to reach out to labs. Don't be afraid to like recommend that folks talk to agronomists, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I think that for this tab, just so it shows the tables that the data is based on, and then I'll go to the next one. Okay, so what you'll see, hopefully you're seeing now or we'll see shortly, is the amendments tab. These are just like products or types of fertilizers. So I put in like the most common ones. I didn't denote if some are organic or some are not. I think that's on the grower. to know. Maybe I should put like a little disclaimer like, hey, check OMRI like database to check if your product's organic. That probably would be a good thing to add to this. But in general, it's got a lot of the different fertilizers that a lot of folks use. So you can change these. Like, see, there's this custom one over on the right. Like I could say, I don't know, let's say you found like a 35-5 like product. And then you could put in your analysis. So it's like 30 pounds of nitrogen, 5 pounds of phosphorus, and 5 pounds of potassium. So now you've got that in your database. You can use that 35-5 product as one of your amendments. If you find that there's a note here to make sure like you check the bag or the product, because sometimes alfalfa meal might not be a 2.511 depending on like the manufacturer. Sometimes a feather meal is not 12 like 00. It might be 1300. So that's a little bit of difference, but it might make a difference. So I would encourage like growers to double check their products and make sure that they're okay here. And then they can change that. If they find their blood meal is 12, they can change that to 12. So you can change products and edit them. So if you do have a cost, like if you know the cost, like let's say I buy a 50-pound bag for $40 and it's 80 cents a pound, right? So let's say my alfalfa meal is like 80 cents a pound. I don't know if that's true. I didn't put in cost because I know that always changes and fluctuates. And yeah, so I'm just gonna like guess on some of these. This isn't right, but $1, let's say potassium sulfate. What's the going rate? 50 cents. 25 cents a pound. So I just wanted to like get those in there to show you what it can do if you were to get good data or good cost data into the equation. So this is kind of like your editable tab. You can change fertilizers, you can change the update the cost, etc. Okay, moving on to the next tab. This is, I think, like the meat of the nutrient calculations. And again, it's based on Michigan State data. And what it does is you can choose a crop, okay? And let's say red beets, for example. Okay, so red beets. Now it's saying like there's a nitrogen of 2.3. That's your goal, and that's pounds per 1,000 square feet. If I were to change this unit to pounds per acre, it's going to show you what the pounds per acre is. And those came from that reference table at Michigan State. So this tool can handle acres and pounds per acre. But yeah, so yeah, I think that's a good thing. But also like it can handle pounds per 1,000 square feet, which I think is also a great thing. So let's say I put my square feet of the area I want to apply. So let's say I'm doing 70 square feet of beets, or what if I do like 250 square feet of beets? Okay, so that kind of you can change how much area that you're actually applying these nutrients on. Okay, so it doesn't have any phosphorus or potassium recommendations right now because it's based on soil test recs. So let's choose one of our soil tests. So I'm going to push here on the soil test area ID, and I'm going to choose a soil test. So let's say I'm going to plant these beets in A1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to use my most recent soil test results from 2021, not the 2019. And it's going to tell me that my phosphorus exceeds and my potassium exceeds for beets. So my phosphorus and potassium are so high that I don't need phosphorus. Like it's above that level. It's above the maintenance level, it's above the drawdown level, and it's to the point where it exceeds and I don't need any more. I inherited my garden like that. Like it was in a community garden, it was already high. I think you'll see that a lot in small farms anyways, just like high phosphorus. So that would probably be a common thing, which is maybe not great in terms, like luckily a lot of our farms are small and not on slopes and not near waterways. But even agronomically, like we would rather have our phosphorus in balance. But like it might be a good thing because we don't have to now buy phosphorus and we don't have to buy potassium. We can just kind of focus on that nitrogen. So it's 2.3 and 0, 0. So I know my goal for this crop is now 2.3 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet. And that's what I need to apply. So here's where it gets like to be a little jigsaw puzzle, a little bit of a game. But you can choose your amendments up here. So do you remember that palette that we looked at in the amendments tab? This now has all those listed in. If I would have kept that 3555, it would have been also in here like selectable. So this is just your palette, right? So let's say I'm using feather meal, blood meal, potassium sulfate. These are just kind of some of the common ones that I use. Then you can say, okay, what if I put on 10 pounds in this little white row right here, 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet times 12%. So just 12% of that product is actually nitrogen, not the whole thing. So that will 10 pounds times 12%, you're actually getting your actual contribution from that feather meal is just 1.2 pounds. So I'm not quite there yet, right? So now let's bump it up to 20. All right, now I'm just a little bit over 2.44 versus 2.3. So let's bring it down to 19. And I hit it. Okay, so like 19 pounds per 1,000 square feet will give me 2.3 pounds of nitrogen, and that's hit my mark. So as you change your area, though, you can see in this top green row, it changes the pounds that you actually need to apply. So if I was on 30 square feet, I only need 10 ounces of feather meal to meet that goal. The pounds per 1,000 square feet stay the same, but I need just 10 ounces. If I was doing 250 square feet of beets, then I need 4 pounds and 12 ounces. Hopefully that makes sense. This is the actual product to apply. So then you would weigh it out. I think in the future it'd be cool to have like conversion tables where it's like a cup equals an ounce, but you know it's variable. So I think that table might exist out there. We just need to find it. But it'd be nice for folks that don't have scales to basically say, okay, like a cup of this probably equals close to an ounce, for example. If you were to change like your crop to something else like broccoli, then your goal is going to change, right? Now it's 3.2. Broccoli is a higher demanding nitrogen crop than beets. So now I might have to actually raise this up, right? Now I'm like looking at like 25 to 27 to hit that nutrient goal. And there are a lot of farmers like, and this tool doesn't say much about this, but again, like it can't say everything. But there's a lot of nuance to fertilization. So like blood meal has a quicker release than feather meal. Alfalfa meal has more protein, right? It's like so like there's different things about these products that make them useful. So I've met a lot of farmers that would split this application. They might say 10 pounds of feather meal and 15 pounds of blood meal. So just like to get more of like just more of a continuous or maybe like they use the blood meal to do more upfront, like to get the fertilizer there quicker because it does have a faster release time. So yeah, there's folks that would mix feather meal, blood meal, and alfalfa meal. And then they might use elemental sulfur for the pH. They might use pelletized chicken manure, like a 545. And there's also different numbers on these pelletized chicken manures. There's like 632, et cetera, et cetera. So you want to get that on the bag right. But pretty much becomes a game of trying to manipulate these products to hit your goal. Okay, so if there's any questions, but I also wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this page. You can see like it does start kicking out cost, which I think is going to be helpful for growers. So like it talks about like because you've entered that cost data, now you can know cost per pound, you can know cost per 1,000 square feet, and you can know cost per area. So yeah, it's like $1.88 of feather meal per this area, $3.75 of blood meal based on how much you're putting on. Okay, if you didn't have a soil test, or if you were like, let's say in buildup mode, and like because it's in buildup, you're like the phosphorus and potassium that they want you to apply is just really high, and you might not have the funds for it. Like, I wanted a grower to be able to kind of customize the recommendations based on those. So you can go down here to this soil test ID area, and you can change this. Like you can change your nitrogen to a custom rec. you can change your phosphorus to a custom rec, or you can do maintenance. So like if you just want it to do like, let's just replace what we're taking, you could do that at maintenance range. Now it says 0.1, right? Up there for phosphorus. So now my goal is 0.1 now. If I want to do maintenance for potassium, it's like 1.3 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So, and then my nitrogen is custom. So I need to come over here and enter a custom rec of like 1 pound, for example. And then it populates the pounds per 1,000 square feet up in the nitrogen row. And I think that's going to be helpful because if you remember, like I was showing you like Michigan State data and Midwest Vegetable Guide data on splitting applications. So doing some up front and doing some later. Like garlic, for example, they say like, don't quote me because just look at the guide, but it's like every 4 weeks, I think, or every 2 weeks, like put on 40 pounds of nitrogen, like through the season. So just having that total nitrogen recommendation helps some, but being able to customize helps you kind of split those up. So let's say it did say 40 pounds, 40 pounds like of nitrogen. There are some conversion tables right below here. So you could say, okay, 40 pounds is 0.9 pounds per 1,000 square feet. So now I'm going to come back up here to my custom recs and put 0.9. So now I know that like this calculation, I'm just like looking for my my side dress, right? Or my my every 4 week application. So then I've got 0.9 and I can start saying, okay, so that's actually just like 7 pounds per 1,000 square feet, 8-ish. So now I'm putting on 2 pounds of feather meal every 4 weeks on those garlic. So that customization kind of helps you like tease out how to do split applications. There's also some use for that. And like, I don't have all the vegetables or I don't have like all the crops in the world in this database, right? Like I found a really cool flower guide, which is like, it said like, if you're doing tulips or if you're doing this, like do 4 pounds per 1,000 square feet or 3 pounds per 1,000 square feet of nitrogen. So this will kind of let you customize, enter things that don't already exist in the spreadsheet. I think that's what I wanted to say for this tab, except for the nutrient credits. So this doesn't automatically take in like nutrient credits. Some of the labs don't either, right? Like some of the labs don't like take account for like how many pounds of nitrogen do you think you're really getting from your soil organic matter or compost or your cover crop. So right now you would need to currently input this. I just learned that Southern SARE Cover Crop Council is like developing a enhanced tool for like cover crop nitrogen release or nitrogen contribution. So like, in the future, maybe like that's used and then you can get a really good solid number and enter it in here. But for example, like you could say like, let's say your nutrient goal was 2.3 and you got like a pound from soil organic matter, you got half a pound from compost, and you got like a half a pound from cover crops per 1,000 square feet. Now your adjusted goal is like 0.3. So you can see where that makes a big difference, right? And I think like the science will keep pushing farther on this and like, but now there's a big difference between needing to apply 2.3 pounds per 1,000 square feet or 100 pounds versus 13 pounds. Big difference. So like it's not a perfect world and we're still learning, but I think this will be helpful. And I did like add like a soil organic matter calculator that was based on like Logan Labs data. But hopefully hopefully just this becomes more solidified in the future, but you can say like, okay, I've got 5% organic matter and it will tell you like an estimated nitrogen release. So then you can put that back into this credit calculator to see how much to account for that. In general, like some agronomists say that it's like 20 pounds per acre per percent nitrogen or percent organic matter. Okay, and then I'm gonna add like maybe another cover crop graph here, but I think I'm gonna zoom in on this. I like this one because so you can take cuttings of your cover crop biomass and send it off to the lab and really get good data on like what your nitrogen release would be. But I think this graph kind of just helps me visualize and guesstimate. So it's basically if you've got a pure legume cover crop and you terminate it when it's like close to the bud stage, like you might be getting upwards of like 60 to 80 pounds of nitrogen. And that's going to depend on your lots of things. Did you inoculate? Is your soil healthy? Was your stand full? Et cetera, et cetera. But this gives like a decent guide. So if I were doing like hairy vetch before sweet corn, I might say, and I kill it, like during vegetative growth, like I might look at taking a credit of, 50 pounds. So if you're doing cereal rye, like you'll notice and you like terminate it when it's really, really tall, like it might actually draw nitrogen from the soil for a little bit. So you might think, okay, if I'm doing a nitrogen loving crop, maybe don't choose cereal rye before it. But if I did, then I might need to adjust. I might need to actually add more fertilizer to account for that. Okay, I'm gonna move on to a tab because time's flying. So this is the crop data tab, and basically it's all that. This is kind of like the background data that comes from Michigan State. So there's it kind of shows like the nitrogen tab or the nitrogen reference table. You can change your preferred unit to pounds per acre if you want to see what those look like in pounds per acre. And so, for example, like my soil test for A1, 2, and 3, it's all exceeds, like it's too high. And for all the crops, except for potato. You can see that potato actually has like such a high phosphorus demand that for potato, we're still in maintenance mode. So that's where this tool becomes pretty valuable too. It'll let you know like, hey, for potatoes, like don't forget you might actually need some phosphorus. This is based on yield data. If you don't have yield data, this thing, like the phosphorus and the potassium recommendations don't really work. So there is yield data already in this tool. It comes from Sayer crop rotation on organic farms and one of the appendices. I did put like a table here where folks can start putting their own data in if they want to. And I think as more trials are done in the future, we'll just get more and more accurate yield data. But currently there is like data entered for those for these crops. And you can change this. Like if you don't think this is right, and if you can also do like pounds per acre. I'll have to check that. But yeah, at any rate, you've got your yield data. So I think that's all I wanted to show you on this tab. And I'm going to go to the compost calculator. So compost calculator is what it is. So like you can kind of take notes like type of compost, like leaf compost. Where'd you get it? What was the data sample, the year of application? Like when did you first apply it? And then you can, if you do have compost data analysis, you can put that in. So if you got a test, you could say, okay, and it came back 32% organic matter. I wrote these down, 7.8, 15-to-1 nitrogen ratio. My nitrogen was like 1, phosphorus 1, manganese. This is 1.2. So yeah, basically, you see what I'm doing, right? You're just entering the data into the tool. So now it's got your compost analyses. So the cool part here is that you can do your area. So let's say I'm putting compost on 500 square feet of growing beds, and my rate is 2 inches. A lot of growers think I'm going to put like 2 inches down, like they think in depth, which is okay. So this calculator here right below this will change whatever your known area and rate is into other units. So now you know that's 83 cubic feet, 3 cubic yards, it's 2 inches, it's 90.8 tons per acre, and it's this many pounds. If you were thinking in cubic yards, like say I've got like 1 cubic yard, I want to put it over that same amount of space, then you know that's about 0.65 inches. And I know that's hard to imagine, like just a half inch, a little over half inch. And then it tells you tons per acre, et cetera. So you can really start to tease out, just like units. And I think it also does acres as well. So if you had like an acre and you're putting on an inch over this acre, that's a lot of compost, and it would let you know that that's a lot of compost. So if you do have this data in, the compost analysis data in, then it can give you estimated nutrient contribution. And there's so many nuances to this. Like this data is from Oregon State as far as nutrient contribution, but it assumes that you're tilling into the soil. And I know, like, I don't till the compost in my soil. I just put it on the top, and there is like a disclaimer here that says, if you're not tilling it into the soil, maybe take less of a contribution, like, reduce your expected contribution from this compost. Again, like, more research needs to be done. More soil tests can kind of, like, if you do just top dress compost, like taking another soil test in a few years will kind of let you know how that's affected the soil. But yeah, again, nuances here, but I still think it's helpful to like have these numbers to kind of really start building your concept of what's going on in your garden with nutrients. If you have like a higher nitrogen soil, like, keep your eye on these estimated nutrient contribution. So if I have a higher nitrogen soil, I put it at 2, like the nitrogen contribution will go up, because as the nitrogen level rises in that soil, the percent nitrogen, just obviously the more contribution that it could give. It does break it down into like year 1, year 2, year 3, and year 4. So that might be helpful in thinking through, okay, I might get this much nutrient contribution from nitrogen the first year. This would be the year 2, year 3, year 4. Below this is some different conversions, where I think some growers, this was some of the grower feedback I got, but like, they like to weigh a 5-gallon bucket of compost. And this, what if it weighs like, gosh, I'm not even sure what it would weigh. Let's say 20 pounds. Let's say that, I've got growers that do this. They weigh a bucket of compost, and they know how many pounds per cubic foot that might be. So that's important, because you do need, this pounds per cubic foot. If you change that, just that weight, and then also like the moisture, that does have a big impact on just the amount of compost and the nutrient contribution calculations. So getting this pounds per cubic foot right is pretty important. So there's also some reference tables below. Like, in general, a cubic foot of leaf compost weighs 25 pounds. Victor Shelton and I were just talking about these numbers and digging in and trying to make sure they're right. There's just as a reference number, again, I would recommend that somebody just actually weigh their compost. But if you needed just a quick reference, then you can check out these tables. But yeah, if we find something more precise, then we'll continue to update. But in general, these were the recommendations. So that is the tool in a nutshell. I'm going to show you how maybe a couple advanced tricks that might be helpful. So especially on this compost. And again, like, I'm going to talk to Purdue about like maybe how to figure out how to like automatically do this better. But let's say that your nitrogen is like 2.5, and your phosphorus is like 7.5, and your K2O is 11.3. Those are year 1 numbers. So you can go back to this amendments tab, and you can actually put in, like, let's say compost 2024. You could even put like 2 inches, like however, like just date on on what you've done. And then you could put in, like, that was 2.5. You can put in your percent nitrogen, your percent P2 phosphorus, and your percent K2O. So now you've got like this in the system. So if you go back to the nutrient calculator, you can actually choose one of your amendments to be that compost in 2024. So a year later, you might put in compost 2025, the 2-inch like application, and then you could enter that data for that for year 2 contribution. So if I click that, and this is where it gets like tricky. This is why I want to make this better. But like, you're doing 100% of that compost. So actually, with that compost, and you probably ignore that 25 pounds, but with that compost that you've put on, you've raised that to 3.5. So I'm going to delete this. So it's actually giving you 2.5%, yeah, 2.5 per 1,000 square feet, 7.5, and 11.3 pounds of potassium. That's a little advanced, a little complicated. Like I don't love that piece. I wish it was just more, yeah, you push a button and it works. But that is one way to tease out like a compost application. And then as I go through, again, like if we could push a button and it solves all our problems, that'd be great. But the way I'm doing it this year is if I'm going to just create a log. So there's another log here. So I would say like, okay, in 2024, I would go through all that process that I just showed you. And let's say like, okay, I need 10 pounds of sulfur. And then I might like say like, because it said 20 pounds of sulfur that I needed per 1,000 square feet. And um, and I know and it also said that there's a limit of 10 pounds of sulfur. So I might just go ahead and put like, and then 2025, I need another 10 pounds of sulfur. And then I might put like, and that was actually like, 20 pounds in the 2,000 square feet of garden. I can't type. There you go. And then I would go through and I'd be like, okay, 2024 beets. And I would say, okay, like I needed like 6 pounds of feather meal. I'm not going to worry about my spelling. 4 pounds of blood meal, and like at plant, for example, and then like another 2 pounds every 4 weeks. So it's a little cumbersome. I get that, but I think it's like a lot, maybe a lot better than what we did have. So I think like I'm gonna like save 3 minutes for questions. That was a lot. And yeah, so I'm gonna stop there. Thank you for tuning in. I'll let you know. Yeah, we'll let you know, I'm sure on the next Urban Updates if we can get like an update on when this might come out. We'll let you know. Are there any questions?
There are some questions, Kevin. Also, thank you so much. This is very thorough.
Cool.
Um, so the first question came up when you were on the amendments tab,
Yep.
and it mentioned is let me go back to the question, sorry. It says, would you recommend creating a custom field for specific brands? Or is there another way to annotate the brand you use for feather meal this year?
Yeah, you can like wherever it says feather meal on the top, you could change that to like feather
Mm,
wherever you want the product, or you could do another custom entry. And you could just add, feather with the product name. Like we as NRCS and SWCD folks like can't really put product names down in our template, but yeah, you could definitely do that. You could definitely put that in the custom box.
okay. And then we have another question here. What is your thought process recommendations for amendment applications between crops in an intensive system with 3+ crops per bed per year?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that's complicated. My thought process, and again, like I'm not an agronomist, I'm not a trained agronomist, so like all this comes with a disclaimer, I think. But my thought process is, in what I'm reading, is that you would fertilize each crop. Um, and so like yeah, like you would fertilize each crop, you would do it for each crop and then fertilize like accordingly. That the Usually I think we're lucky in the fact like especially nitrogen. And I think I'm not gonna sounds weird to say we're lucky that we've got high phosphorus and high potassium because we're not. But we are lucky in the sense that you don't have to manage that phosphorus and potassium so tightly. Like you're not putting like we're not usually not in buildup mode where we're putting on massive amounts of phosphorus to fertilize. So you're not doing that for every single crop, just in general. Um, yeah, I hope that answers the question. I think if it was maintenance, like if your soil tests were low in phosphorus and you were in maintenance rec range, then I believe well the actual documents say like it's for 4 years. Like for 4 years you would be in buildup range. And that would take up like, so you're basically fertilizing based on your buildup range. And then at the end of 4 years, you would have your level like to maintenance range. But that is a good question. You know, what if you do 4 crops? Like I'd be hesitant to like put on that much phosphorus, right? Like if you, so I think my gut would just be like one thing of like, again, not agronomist, but up front, I would probably just put on like the phosphorus at the beginning of the season, and then hopefully soil test, and then do your few crops. Maybe add a little bit more, like maybe 2 out of the 4 crops, like give it the phosphorus recommendations. I probably shouldn't even be like giving like again, Purdue Extension, like agronomists will help like kind of help tease those things out. But like again, like and then like next year's soil test, and then like see what your phosphorus levels has done. Have they gone way down? Have they gone way too far up? And kind of just feel that out from there. That's not a great answer. Sorry. It's a complicated question. It's probably the hardest question you can ask. So thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have time for like one more. And so Terry asks, often growers are applying compost as their main nutrient amendment, and the nutrient analysis isn't readily available.
Mhm.
How do you recommend the use of this tool for those growers? And maybe speak on the importance of having that compost test.
Yep. If you are on that I'm probably not going to share it again just for time, but like if you're on that compost tab and you go to the second page, there is like a table with like common analyses for manure with bedding, with for yeah, for leaf compost. So there are kind of like target like ranges, and you'll see very quickly that if your phosphorus is high and you're using a manure based product, it's gonna like just get way higher and higher, higher. So like that's where I would probably recommend moving towards a plant-based compost, just because the nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium are lower in in a compost based, like in a plant-based compost. But yeah, it is important because like I've seen growers be like put on, start their garden with 4 inches of compost, and it's great for soil health, like great for alleviating compaction, biology, organic matter, all the things, but you'll see your phosphorus go up in a hurry. So yeah, it is. It's a balance. That's like I love compost in my garden. Like I want to use more just for like weed suppression. I'm going to use a little bit more this year than usual. But I'm still trying to like find ways to like minimize the amount I need because of cost, and also because that just nutrient load can shoot up in a hurry. Thank you.
Thank you. And you should read the comments. There's a lot of really good
Cool.
comments.
Awesome. All right.
Um, Thank you, Kevin. I think we'll move on now to the next section of the urban updates.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Then now we'll move on to share with you our regional updates, or what our urban soil specialists are working on their respective regions. And I'll go first. Um, so for the past months, these are some of the things I've been working on. First, we were able to attend the Midwest Cover Crop Council meeting in Indianapolis in the past week, which was a really good opportunity for networking and around the topic of cover crops. I've also been like visiting a lot of the soil and water conservation districts in the Northwest, and having discussions about starting their own urban soil health working groups, which is very exciting, and I'm excited for the opportunities that we create this year. I've also been attending the Black Loam Conference planning meetings, and so right now I'm also involved in the Northern Black Loam Conference planning group. So that will be in March 28. March 28. And so once I have more information, I'll definitely share with everyone. And then I've also been doing some garden visits and doing technical assistance on spring planted cover crops and also cover crop terminations, specifically in the Lafayette area. So yeah, so those are some of the things that I'm working on, and next week I'll be at the Marble Seed Conference, which is an organic farming conference in Wisconsin, and so our all of our urban soil health specialists will be there. So that will be another training opportunity for us to bring back to Indiana. So that's all I have for today. So next we have, oh, sorry. Well, I also wanted to share that the Farm Aid produced a movie called Common Ground, and they're showcasing this movie on February 25, and they'll have a panel at that screening event where some of the growers that we've worked with will be speaking at. So, Rick Clark is a row crop farmer, but there'll also be Katie Rogers from Teeter Organic Farms and Lauren McAllister. She's in the Bloomington area, and our state senator. So that's an opportunity to um, watch a movie about conservation in Indiana. Next, we have Terry.
Good morning. Thank you. So in the Northeast, it's been busy with conference season and annual meetings. I had the great opportunity to go to the Michiana Seed Swap in Goshen, Indiana. And it was a really neat opportunity to connect with a lot of different farmers and growers in the area. And I gave out a lot of cover crop seeds and lots of information. And most of the people that received the information had never tried cover crops, and they were excited to try it even on their small scale. I also went to a Circular Indiana networking event in Fort Wayne. Circular Indiana is a newer rendition of an older nonprofit working on sustainability across Indiana. And it was really neat to connect with people in our region and just ideate and share ideas and the networking for sustainability and conservation. And St. Joe County had a really neat urban and small farm soil summit, their second annual. There was 45 people in attendance, and it was fun opportunity to get together a few vendor tables and talk about soil health. I provided the educational programming, so talking about soil health, and then we talked about integrated pest management and how that kind of intersects with the soil health practices we talked about earlier. And I got to guest lecture at Indiana Tech, which is a neat opportunity to meet new audiences and talked more about soil health and just conservation and the importance of it. And I was able to make a few connections with people that own land around the area and talk about some of the conservation practices and resources that they didn't know was available to them. And like I said, I went on, I've been doing the annual meetings and then also doing some farm visits. So Full Hand Farm, Genesis openly allowed us to come on there with the soil and water in Madison County and view their farm. And then I also went out to Lee's Edible Acres in St. Joe. And this is actually just last Friday. So he was pulling back some tarps for me, showing what was underneath. And just, he's got some really great soil health practices out there. And then next slide, please. Marion. Next slide. Por favor. Thank you. So in the Northeast region, we've got a few upcoming events. I just popped the link for all of these in the chat. We've got Unity Gardens Growing Summit. So I'll be there as a vendor and a speaker talking about soil health. Kosciuszko County is doing has Dan Perkins coming and talking about the small farm of the future. He's going to be doing a lecture. It's a free workshop that's coming up. I'd highly recommend it. And if you guys could please share this to any farmers or farmer groups in your area, we'd love to fill the room with farmers to learning from other farmers. SoilCon 2024 is coming up. I'll just be an attendee there, but I'm excited for a full day of soil learning from Kosciuszko County. And then last one is March 23rd. I'll be a speaker at the Allen County Garden Symposium along with some really awesome presenters. The focus is on sustainability, so it's a really neat lineup. I recommend you guys check it out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. All right. Casey.
Hi, everyone. I thought I was next. So things going on in the Southwest, some highlights. I've attended the Vermilion County annual meeting this past month. We did a working group planning meeting with Park Vermilion and Vigo County, their Soil Health Alliance. We planned some events for the year, as well as some other things that they'd like to do. I did an initial planning meeting with Johnson County to start those working group stages as well. There were some trainings given to new district employees in Park, Vigo, Vermilion, and Gibson County. We did like a site visit, soil health analysis training, so that they feel confident, to go out into the field and do that in their communities. Something that I've been working on for quite a while, this mulching overview document with NRCS. That is basically, I'm going to say 99.9% done. We're waiting for NRCS approval, and then that should be available to everyone to use. And then I've also participated in the Pathway to Water Quality Committee for the State Fair. I'm kind of helping with that. So that's kind of an exciting new adventure. But I'm also working on some upcoming meetings with the working groups, like scheduling our year out and planning. And then I'm also, with the start of the year, trying to make sure that all the working groups have all those startup supplies that they need. So like your books, your soil knives, soil probes, buckets, any supplies that you need as a working group that we give you. Please reach out if there's something that you're missing. But I'm going to try to make sure that all the groups have everything that they need to start up. So next slide. And then here's some events that are happening. That Southwest Indiana Homesteading Conference, that's coming up March 9th. I didn't see a registration deadline, but I think that there might still be enough time to register for that. It said that you could make accommodations up to 2 weeks ahead of time. So there might still be a little chance that you could register for that if you're interested. In Park and Vermilion, Vigo County, those two in the middle, they're having a creative growing workshop March 6th, where we're going to talk about organic farming, beneficial insects, and some regenerative agriculture practices. And then they're also hosting a wild fungi workshop later in the month. And then something else exciting in Davies County, they're hosting a Landwise workshop, Purdue Extension, and lots of other partners. It's going to be a really awesome day. Dan Perkins is going to come down for that event. And I believe that you can also get PARP credits if that's something that you need. And RSVP is by March 4th for that. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. This is Megan Ayers in the Southeast. I've been really busy going to ag breakfasts and annual meetings. I also went to the Midwest Cover Crop Council's conference, which was really great. I also attended the Forage Cover Crops and Organic Production Summit at Turkey Run Inn, sponsored by Byron Seeds. I guest lectured at Hanover College just yesterday. Did a bunch of site visits and technical assistances. And the thing that I'm really excited about for this year is that Jennings County Soil and Water Conservation District and I are starting a soil health demonstration garden at Muscatatuck Park. And so that's what I have pictures of there on the right. Our plot of land, and then the tarp that was put down. And then a couple weeks ago, I got to participate with Union County's Soil and Water Conservation District at their Parks Department and a bunch of really excited volunteers to plant 10 acres of a pollinator plot. It's Savannah Stout, the state biologist through quails and Pheasants Forever, came out too and gave us a great talk about the role of pollinators in regenerative systems. So we just had a great time. It was a little chilly, but we got 10 acres planted. So that was really wonderful. Some upcoming events is the Keep It Growing Season Extension Workshop. That is tonight from 6 to 8. It's virtual, and the 6th of 7 sessions that we offer tomorrow in Clark County, Yard Sprouts Utilizing Holistic Planting and Maintenance Gardening Practices is at Andrus Lodge in Lapping Park in Clarksville from 6 to 8. Additionally, the Jefferson Soil and Water Annual Meeting is on tomorrow on the 22nd. We're going to be at the Marble Seed Organic Farming Conference for the rest of that week. Then on the 26th, I'm going to be at Lawrence's annual meeting. On March 1st, we've got the Purdue Small Farms Conference. Oh, I'm sorry, from March 29th to March 1st. And then March 5th, I'm going to be hosting a garden prep for healthy soils workshop. And then on March 6th, I'm going to be at the Medora Community School for their Envirothon. And then I'll be at Ohio Soil and Water Conservation District's annual meeting. Next slide, please. Here are some of those events. So the Yard Sprouts workshop is really great. That's going to be a series over all of spring that will be talking about regenerative agricultural practices, from utilizing small scale farming, soil health, integrated maintenance like mulching, cover cropping, using season extension materials, that sort of thing. And I'm really excited about that garden prep for a healthy growing season, where we're going to be talking about how you can get your garden started strong at the beginning of the season with a lot of soil health practices to support health. And so that's all I have in the Southeast, and I look forward to seeing you all next month.
Thank you, Megan. Now we'll have Ellie share about conferences and grant opportunities.
You've heard about a lot of them already, but just highlighting that Marble Seed is this upcoming week. Too late to probably get up there, but a good one to put on the calendar and share with growers in the future. And Small Farms Conference will all be there. And also the Indiana Grown Symposium, March 19th, also at Hendricks and County Fairgrounds. And just a shout out to those working with working groups that we can help support professional development to send staff to some of these conferences that have a focus on soil health. So reach out to our specialists or to myself for more information about that. And then some upcoming grant opportunities to highlight are March 8th is the due date for the State Department of Ag's Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Grant Program, which is designed to help support those organizations, businesses in the middle of the food chain to increase distribution, aggregation, storage capacity, market expansion, or do facility updates. They have had some webinars sharing more about this grant opportunity. They range from $10,000 to $100,000 for specialty equipment, and from $100,000 to $3 million for infrastructure. So pretty significant grant opportunities that are a new one for our state, and really encourage you to share that with producers. And then, as I know many of you work with CSP and our NRCS employees, I'm sure you're aware that March 15th is the deadline there, but just wanted to highlight that with the minimum payment increase for CSP for some of these conservation practices, that we this could really be a good opportunity beyond EQIP to help support some of our small scale producers. And April 1st, for those of you working with soil and water conservation districts or actively participating in a local urban working group, the NACD urban and community grants are coming up. And I think that would be a wonderful way to be creative and complement projects that you already have going on that you want to expand, do more creative work with. And then the Urban Ag and Innovative Production grant cycle for 24 was just announced with an April 9th deadline there. And those are split into planning projects and implementation projects. And a pretty significant grant opportunity there, ranging from $75,000 to $350,000. There's precedent for Indiana farm organizations really focused on food deserts, food access, and getting and receiving those grants. I believe there's at least 3 projects around the state that have been supported by those. So and then I didn't have it here. I was just looking up the date. I don't see the date yet, but the SAYER Professional Development Program grant will likely be due in around April, and that is to enhance and create educational and professional development opportunities. So a lot of good things that could be developed there. Let us know if you want to partner on any projects around soil health for small farms. And as you can see, we do stay busy in the winter. Thank you to the whole team for getting out and supporting local, all of our local partners, being at these meetings, conferences, events, still getting out and doing site visits and providing technical assistance. Just a lot going on. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ellie. And now it's your opportunity to share about any upcoming events that you have in your district or in your area. So this is a chance to either unmute yourself and share information about those, or if you have comments, or you can also type those in the chat. I will give a few minutes or few seconds, and if I don't hear anything, then we'll move on. But I highly encourage you that if you have an event coming up that you want people to know about, then this is a good opportunity to share that.
Don't be shy, everybody.
Good morning. This is Elissa. I'm with Allen County Soil and Water Conservation District, and we're having our annual meeting on the 24th. We're going to have a pancake and sausage breakfast in New Haven. There should be some more information on our website, or you can give us a call, and it is free. And we're going to have Larry Clemens there, and Rod Rankenberger, and Michael Frucci. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Elisa. What topics will you be covering?
We're going to be talking about Clean Water Indiana and rainfall, runoff, climate change, and floodplain mapping.
Oh, really important topics. Do you have any coffee and
Oh,
topics
correct. Yes,
upcoming?
yes. Friday at 10 a.m. we will be doing the Coffee and series, which is a webinar for about an hour or so. And the topic this week will be planting for pollinators.
There you go.
Thank
If
you.
you have the link to your website and you want to share it in the chat, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
But if not, it's okay.
No
Thank you
problem.
for sharing.
This is Keegan with the Soil and Water Conservation District of Boone County. I just wanted to bring to attention, we're also having an annual meeting, March 12th. You can feel free to call out and reserve. We'll be talking about updates in Boone County and future developments.
Thank you for sharing. Well, if nobody else has anything else to share, then we're almost at towards the end of our meeting. So thank you everyone for joining. Our next meeting will be on March 12th, and we'll be discussing perennial fruit crops on diversified farms. So if you want to learn about that, please join us on March 12th. Here is our contact information, website, newsletter, resources, and social media. So follow us if you want to know more about the work that we're doing or want to find resources available for urban small-scale farms. And again, thank you everyone, and hope you have a good rest of your week.
You too.